Morning, happy Friday, and welcome back to the NOFO Live podcast, where I, Sunitha, along with my co-host Tracy, we hop on every Friday and talk about everything North Fork. It is spring. It's beautiful outside. Well, the lighting in here is really weird today because it said it was going to rain all weekend. And I was really worried because there's a whole bunch of activities happening this weekend. But now it looks like it's going to rain on Monday. So one of the things I'm excited about this weekend is one of my favorite restaurants on the North Fork, Latin Fusion, right here in Southold, is hosting their first ever Cinco de Mayo festival, which sounds really fun. She's obviously going to have great food. I think they have a DJ. I believe DJ Henry is going to be there. So right in Feather Hill Plaza, there'll be music and Latin food. And I think several of the local stores are participating. So that sounds exciting. And that is Saturday, May 3rd, tomorrow. And then on Sunday, a really amazing biodynamic farm, KK's, is hosting their annual Dandelion Festival, which, if you've never been, is such an amazing experience and so rooting in the earth and connected. And, here we are living a large portion of our life thinking dandelions are bad and they need to be pulled out. And gosh, there was an era of Roundup where people were using harsh things to get rid of it, not recognizing what that was doing to our planet and the rest of our garden. So it's a beautiful celebration of sunshine, spring, earth. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm glad and everybody can come and join. I mean, there are many other events happening as well. But, I think the brewery's hosting a festival, Borghesi's. Good morning, how are you?
Hi. Okay. I've tried this 3 times and the phone keeps falling down. So we will see.
Oh, you're in travel mode.
I am. And I've got Tilly and we've got her cousin, my best friend. We're at my best friend Becky's house.
Aww.
There it is. Okay. That's not gonna work. We're gonna go from there. Okay. There we go.
Oh, I was saying
Tilly, wanna say hi?
you're going to miss the Dandelion Festival,
I
and I know
know.
how much we enjoyed that with
I
Tilly.
know. I do love that festival. And my favorite part is the crowns. I
The
love the
crowds.
crowns.
Oh yes, the flower crown. I think this year, I don't know how they're doing it differently, but they have music all day long, in the pasture and different times, different brand. I think the kid friendly, was it Brady? I'm going to say his name wrong.
Oh yeah, upstairs
Well,
in that barn.
I
Yeah,
think
that was
this
good.
time it says music in the pasture, and then they have, talks the whole time. And I think Sonomi's back, so she's
Yes.
going to do a grounding ceremony at the end. It's going to be beautiful. But talking about beautiful, I am super excited about today's guest as well because
Uh,
I think I shared before. Oh, there's Charlie. Good morning, Charlie. Well, Charcoal is going to make an appearance in a minute, but I think I shared before that my fur baby that I had for 13 years passed away a couple of years ago, and I always said he's been the one for me. He's been the one for me, and I wouldn't allow myself to open my heart to another. But a really good friend of ours said to me once, and I think that's really what started the whole journey of being open to visit the Southold shelter and open myself up to another one, was Paul said to me, like, that dogs don't come into our life for our whole life, but we come into their life for their whole life. And I was like, okay. He's a wise
Meaning
man. He's a
like you
wise man.
can't, you shouldn't withhold your love from another
Because
little
his
soul
lifetime or her
because of,
lifetime, he's still looking for somebody.
yeah.
You can't be worrying about your lifetime and who's going to give it to you? So
You
then I
know,
was like,
it's
so thereby enter the North Fork Animal League. And welcome, Taylor.
Hi, it's really nice to be here and talk to you guys.
Hi
Well,
Taylor.
let's introduce everybody who you are and what your role is at the
So,
shelter.
so I'm the manager at our Riverhead location. The North Fork Animal Welfare League, we have two locations, Riverhead and Southold. When I first started, I was in July of 21. I started out at Southold, and then while the Riverhead shelter was under renovation, and then once the renovations were complete, I moved out here full time.
Okay, I know where the Southold shelter is. It's literally across from the
I
brewery.
actually don't know where the Southold one is, but I know where the
Okay,
Riverhead one is because
so
I
the
pass it all the
Southold one
time.
is across the street from the brewery. You can't miss it.
Yeah, we're right by Modern Snack Bar. in
I was
Aquabog.
gonna
Like,
say it's
yeah,
Aquabog,
Yeah,
not quite
yeah,
Riverhead. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, great. So tell us a little bit more about what you have. You have all kinds of pets. I know you have dogs and cats, right? So tell us a little bit more about what the shelter is or the league is.
Uh, So we have two shelters with town contracts, contract with Riverhead Town, contract with Southold Town. We do animal control, so we pick up stray dogs. They stay at the shelter while waiting to be like reunited with their owners, and then if they don't get picked up, then they go up for adoption. And same thing with the stray cats.
How long
So
do
we primarily
you have them before you would put it up for adoption? Like,
uh,
how long do you wait for the owner to find them?
So if the animal doesn't have any ID, like they don't have tags or a microchip, it's 5 days. And if they do have ID, like they have a microchip that's connected to a person, or they have like a collar and tags, and we just can't get in touch with the person, then at that point it's 9 days.
Okay, so that's for like local animal control and stray dogs, right?
Yeah.
But then you also have many, many other animals available for adoption that you get. Charcoal, for example, came on a transport from, I guess, I don't know if it's Georgia or where in the
Yeah,
South.
we've pulled from a few different states. Right now, our primary relationship is with a few Georgia shelters. So down there, just because their overpopulation issue is so bad, they have to euthanize for space. So they even have to euthanize puppies. So we pull dogs from down south to hopefully alleviate that need to euthanize. And a lot of the dogs that we pull from down south, they have really, really great temperaments, Southern Belle-esque type personalities. And it's really nice because it gets people, when people get excited about transports, they come down to the shelter, and a lot of times they may see dogs or cats that we have locally as strays, and they may end up taking one of those as well. So it's
Hmm.
kind of like a win-win for both sides.
So,
So,
so
Nita, didn't charcoal come
I
from
did come
down south?
from a
Yeah.
transport in Georgia, and as it turned out, we ended up getting we ended up getting there a week, not a week, an hour before the transport got there, and we just lingered and were able to watch the transport come down, and that experience, it's hard to describe because in the transport that the charcoal came in, I think there were about 30 other animals, dogs and cats. And they make a 20-hour journey, I guess, from Georgia all the way down here. And they're all in individual crates. And there's just so many, right? But what got to me the most was the way the shelter has so many amazing volunteers that show up when the transport is coming. And obviously, each dog, as they're being taken off the transport, is a little scared. They've been in the crate for 20 hours. They don't know this new location, what's going to happen. But every single volunteer, without even knowing each dog, the way they hug them, the way they grab them, they were like messy with water spilled and food. The people didn't care. They just loved each and every individual stranger dog, brought them in. It was beautiful and sad and beautiful to watch. So I thank
Yeah.
every single one of you that does this week after week, day after day for these animals.
What are the volunteer opportunities for people? And selfishly, are there any volunteer opportunities for children?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of kid volunteers. They just have to come with a parent or guardian. And even if they want to do something like dog walking, usually what I'll do at Riverhead is just have like a double leash setup where the parent has one leash attached to the dog and then the kid has another leash attached. Just in case the dog is able to get away from the kid, there's a backup line of safety.
Oh,
But we do have quite a few like dedicated
okay.
parent kid volunteer duos that come in maybe every week, and they'll just come socialize with the dog. Sometimes they'll just hang out in a room and maybe hang out with a dog that's a little bit more scared or nervous that just needs some extra time. Oh, that dog is adorable.
Oh my
Um,
God. Well, that came from the animal shelter. Oh, this is Charcoal. He's making his debut here today. He was really malnourished when we got him, like 7 point something pounds. He's a terrier Shih Tzu mix. And like you said, he has the best temperament. except we've discovered he's Houdini. And even though we're fenced in, because he's so tiny, he tends
Oh,
to go under the deer fence and then
Oh,
chasing deer in every property. But he has totally adopted his dad.
oh,
So the two of them are inseparable, which is very, very cute.
oh.
Um, so tell me a little bit more about how often do you get these transports and how many dogs do you have at any given time? Bye, Charcoal.
Um,
How many dogs do you have at any given time in either shelter?
so at Riverhead, max capacity is around 32 dogs. Southold, I guess, probably around the same. So normally we're not at full capacity. We are basically at full capacity right now. Um, and then in terms of transports, maybe like once a month or so, depending
Wow.
on like, how many local dogs that we have.
Wow. Well, like I said, I just watched the one, right? And there were some really beautiful larger dogs, smaller dogs, like all kind. And I think many people, either you guys do a good job of talking about it. I don't know how people find out, but there were many
I was
people.
just going to ask that. How do people find, like, how did you know that a transport
So
was coming?
for me, because I got slightly ready, I mean, it took me 6 months to
Yeah.
sort of walk into the shelter, So I
Yeah.
went 2 weeks prior, right? With no warning, nothing. I just showed up to see what they have, but I knew that I am actually allergic to dogs.
Yeah.
So I need what they would call a
Yeah.
hypoallergenic that doesn't shed,
Yeah.
that has hair, I guess, instead of fur.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
knew that. So my choices were limited by that. So I went into the shelter, into the Southold one, and I think there were at least 32 dogs because every single little crate was full. And it was sort of like a not bad, but a hard experience for me because I knew like every dog was excited to see us, but I knew that I couldn't take any of them home. So it was kind of a little
Mhm.
traumatic for me, but it was more me not being ready for it. But Gabby, who is the manager of your counterpart at the Southold shelter, right? And a couple of other volunteers said to me, don't worry about it. Come back next week. We have a transport coming, and they kind of have an idea once the truck is loaded what kind of dogs are going to be on there. So
Yeah.
then I called the day before the transport came on a Saturday, on a Friday, and they said there were like 4 smaller dogs, so I could come, and check. So that's how I knew to be
Yeah.
there on a Saturday. But then I wasn't the only one there. So how does that
Yeah.
work? How do people find out?
So usually we know maybe about a week to 2 weeks in advance if we're pulling dogs for the
Okay.
transport. If I know that we're actively pulling dogs, like I have dogs picked out on a little spreadsheet, and that a transport's coming, I'll usually tell people if they come in and they don't see like a dog that they're interested in at that moment, I'll say, hey, a transport's coming in 1 to 2 weeks. Either give a call around this date or stop by. So I'll usually tell people that are coming in. Sometimes we post about it on Facebook, but sometimes it can be difficult because people want like a specific dog before even meeting it. And then you have people that are like fighting over a dog that isn't even in the physical shelter. So usually I just try to do it where it's like either in person or if someone's calling asking if we have a certain type of dog, I'll say, not now, but in the future, probably 2, 3 weeks, we'll be getting a transport, and I'll keep an eye out to see if there's a dog similar to that to pull.
That's great to know. I feel like I don't even want to talk about this, but Charlie is 14. And Tilly, my daughter, is so attached to him that I can't imagine our life without having a pet in there. But I also know, similar to you, Sunita, like we need a hypoallergenic dog. We need a small dog. We have a very small house. And I've always in my mind kind of been like, how do you walk into a shelter and have like a list? Because you just kind of have to look at what's there. But I didn't realize with these transports, you can kind of find out what's coming.
Yeah, like sometimes we can just kind of say like, oh, we're getting small dogs in or we're getting big dogs in. But sometimes if it's like a rare or more rarish breed that we're pulling, if I know someone has reached out about that dog, I'll usually give them a heads up and say, hey, because I'll keep a list. Hey, this person was interested in like an Australian Shepherd, just so that if by chance we get one surrendered or we get one on transport, I already kind of have someone lined up that may potentially be interested.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
So the shelters are usually full as it is, right? Because you're continually getting dogs. But when you are getting a transport, then you kind of almost have to make room for them as well in terms of how you're going to house them. So I have noticed that you do sleepovers. So talk a little bit about how people can either foster or do sleepovers or what else do you need?
So all you have to do to be a foster or sleepover is fill out our adoption application. You could either get one of the applications in person from either of the shelters, or you could just like print it off online, submit it online, or like print it off and bring it in person. On those applications, it's just confirming home ownership or confirming with a landlord that you're allowed to like have a dog or a cat. Three personal references just to see what kind of person they are, and then a vet reference if they have other pets to make sure their current pets are up to date and like have been brought in consistently for medical care. Usually it's like 24, 48 hours for approval. After you're approved, you're able to come down. If you have another dog, then usually we want like to have a meet and greet at the shelter to make sure the dogs get along before bringing them home. But if you don't have another dog, it's a little bit easier. You don't have to do the meet and greet. You could come down. If you like them when you meet them in our meet and greet room, then you could take them home that day. There's no set time period that you have to foster or have a dog in your care. So we have a lot of good people that will take a dog like just for a sleepover overnight. They'll get food, they'll get toys. We can give them a crate if they want. Um, and they can give us a lot of good information about how the dog acts in a home environment. And that really
Oh,
helps with their adoptability because we get pictures of the dog outside of the shelter, not behind bars. And if you have pictures of a dog in a natural environment, I find it tends to attract people more. They could see the dog living in their
yeah.
lifestyle more because they're
On
like,
their
hey,
own couch, on their own couch,
yeah,
as opposed to somebody else's
yeah. So
couch.
it's really helpful to volunteers that take the pictures and kind of give us a better description of how the dog acts like in different scenarios because that really helps with their adoptability long
Well,
term. So even if they decide that they don't want the dog, like it's helping the dog get adopted.
Hmm.
and the stories and the descriptions truly are wonderful because I follow your Instagram account and I have your newsletter, but the descriptions of the sleepovers, I think people really take the time to provide valuable information for somebody that is looking to take this animal home.
Yeah, yeah, they do. They
Yeah.
definitely take it pretty seriously, and it's really nice because the dog gets out of the shelter for a day, so or a week or a few weeks. It really depends.
I
Well,
love
I
that.
know.
I didn't know really that you could kind of even fostering always kind of scared me just because of my lifestyle is so, erratic. But being if you knew you were going to be home for a whole week, you could just foster for a week and you're
Well,
Yeah,
not committing
but
until
that's why I like the word sleepover because it could be
yeah,
overnight. Like
yeah.
sometimes the day the transport is coming and they have, too many animals and they only have so many spaces to put them in. If some can be someplace else, then there's a way to move things around so
Yeah.
like fostering does sound scary because it seems a lot more permanent, less
Yeah.
permanent than adopting, but it still sounds like you're responsible. But a sleepover is like, okay,
Yeah.
Charlie can have a play date, till
Yeah.
he can meet a new dog. And like Taylor said, it really does help the dog and also helps him find him or her. I keep saying him because I've
Sure,
always
it
had
goes
male dog. I have
yeah.
I have three boys. So in fact, it's funny when we met Charcoal from the transport, there was a male and a female that came down together, and immediately I was like, well, which one's the male? Because I only know how to be a boy mom. So that was good. Okay, so tell Stephen's talking about how the staff is so nice and they donate goods and always walk. So talk about volunteers, and I know you have a lot of people that come in to help walk the dogs, but and also talk about how everyone can support you and what can they donate.
yeah. So I talked a little about like the kid volunteer opportunities. We're always looking for dog walkers. We're always looking for people to help with events like bringing a dog to the brewery or
Oh,
bringing a dog to an adoption event. That's probably like one of our biggest needs right now, I'd say. Like being able to find people to transport dogs to events and kind of hanging around with their little adopt me vests. Just giving them the opportunity to be seen outside of the shelter.
Is that
Um,
in their own vehicle or
yeah, that would be in their own
okay?
vehicle. But
Just
we
checking
do,
so I can't. Okay,
yeah,
because I'd like to
and
do that. I just need to bring the
yeah,
yeah.
truck.
And
but we do provide crates if
how do
you
people
have a
sign up
crate.
for that? How do people
So
sign up for that?
all you have to do is we have volunteer applications online, so you could print it out
Mhm.
and bring it in, or pick one up in person. And then after you take an initial like volunteer orientation, then you'd be good to help with any of our events.
Great. And what about things to donate? Because I know whenever I'm cleaning out the closets or whatever, and I come across, old comforters or things like that, I always think like, oh my God, I would, I don't want to toss this. I'd love to give it to shelter. Do you guys take that kind of stuff? Towels and
Yeah,
things?
yeah, blankets, sheets, towels, comforters. We really don't have a need for pillows.
Okay.
But everything else we could use. Any pet products. We could always use like wet dog food, wet cat food.
Okay.
Especially like enrichment items too, like bully sticks, Bones, high value stuff to keep the dogs busy, Kongs, peanut butter, cat toys, catnip, etc.
Let's talk about cats for a second. I don't want to leave them out. I know you guys just recently rescued some. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the cat situation there?
Yeah, so we have three cats from Happy Cat here at the Riverhead location, and then I think there's like 12 maybe at our Southold location. A lot of them have upper respiratory issues or need dentals, so they're still in isolation. But I know at the Southold location, at least, they're slowly like integrating them into the cat rooms. Our guys are
This is a rescue from a specific location.
Yeah, so the Happy Cat situation, there was a cat rescue out west that burned down.
Oh,
So they needed to find placement for like 200, 300 cats. So
wow.
a lot of local shelters stepped up and pulled animals from them. And we did as well.
That's amazing.
So the upper respiratory issues are from the smoke.
Probably a combination of the smoke and like the amount of animals like in an enclosed space. Like it's really easy when you have a high volume of animals for sickness to spread. So
Yeah.
unless you're like really on top of it, it's very easy for stuff to, because it's stressful being in a shelter environment or being in a crate. So already they're immunocompromised. So just add in like any sort of illness or stressful event like a fire, and that's what you end up with.
What
Well,
made you decide to get into this line of work?
So I originally went to Cornell to be a veterinarian.
Hmm.
As I was like going through my animal science program, and kind of seeing that like if I wanted to be a vet, it was more about like dedicating your life to medicine and to the science. And like I was interested in the science, but I didn't want to make it my entire like I wasn't interested enough to dedicate myself and make all these sacrifices in other ways, but I still wanted to work with animals and with people. So I started looking for like animal rescue, animal shelter jobs because I kind of was interested in like the behavior aspect and just like working in combination, like giving public education, being able to, while also being able to be hands on in some capacity.
Hmm.
So I was kind of deciding between here and then there was another shelter in Maine. But I like grew up on Long Island, so it was a pretty easy decision to stay here.
And you said once you took this job, you relocated out here to the North Fork?
No, so I grew up in Center Moriches. I had gone
Okay,
to McGann, Mercy, and Riverhead for I guess junior high or whatever. But I hadn't really been like out on the North Fork until I started commuting to Southold every day.
got it.
well, in that case, the Riverhead location is a little bit of a shorter commute for
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, yes.
Okay, so when I brought charcoal home, you guys were so gracious. I got a bag of food ready to go for day one, some toys, a blanket. So obviously, how are you funded? How do you support all this? I mean, there is a, nominal adoption fee. But other than donating things, how can people support? Like, I guess, obviously monetary donations, or
Yeah.
how do you operate, and how can we help?
Yeah, we could always use monetary donations. A lot of people will maybe like you could sponsor adoption fees for certain animals. So that's maybe a little bit
Mhm.
more personal. You could waive an adoption fee and maybe someone that was on the fence would be like, hey, like, no, I actually really, really want this dog or cat. We have a few people that host like I guess like kind of like private fundraisers where they have us as a beneficiary. We kind of promote them, they promote us. Sometimes we bring dogs to the event just to get our adoptable animals out there. Sometimes we host like fundraising events. Like I know we've had a few at the brewery, and then we've had some at some of the local wineries. So anyone that's interested in potentially hosting us, that would probably help because main thing is probably finding a venue. Could always use.
Do you have
I mean, I
any
guess.
pet? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess primarily monetary because we do have like a town contract, but the town contract isn't even enough to pay the salaries of the staff. So we really
Mm.
are reliant on public donations.
Do you have any pet adoption events coming up soon?
So we have, it's not an adoption event, but we have an event, Betty's Boutique, in, I think it's in Matatock, this Saturday and Sunday, and it's basically like a luxury yard sale. So even if
Ooh,
you're not like that big into it, I've been before and they have a lot of really cool items. So it's honestly cool to just go check it out because you could probably find like a pretty good steal
wait,
on some.
when is this? Is it this
Is it
weekend?
tomorrow?
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
Is it tomorrow?
Saturday, Saturday and
Okay.
Sunday.
Meanwhile, Sunita, our conversation yesterday, I don't need anything else, but that sounds really fun to go and shop.
Yeah, we have a few. We have a few of them a year, so I think we have like 3, 4 a year. So we'll probably, if I had to guess, don't quote me on this, but I think there will probably be one more before the end of summer, like maybe like August, September.
I feel like I
Okay.
saw a flyer earlier, or maybe because I follow your newsletter, that people can donate items for
Yeah,
this, right? So Tracy, maybe that's more along the lines of what you can do
Yes, I can
is
give some.
donate excess items you have rather than buy.
yeah,
But I
Yes.
also think it's a
yes,
good strategy. Like after I've moved, I've realized that you move with some of the stuff that fit your old life, but I'm okay with swapping them out for things
New
that
fit.
fit this life,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
not about necessarily getting new stuff. It's about swapping things out for
Well,
what's working.
funny because you don't even need to move, right? You could just have a life-changing event, i.e., a child, a
Now
three-year-old, where
that would be way too smart.
yes, yes, you don't need all your like collectibles out on the table anymore. You just need lots of baskets for toys.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
Oh, well, I could talk to you about these dogs and cats all day, but let's go into our NoFo Live 5. So, if you had a moment to breathe in the middle of your workday, where would you take Sunita and I for lunch or dinner? And let's pick a good spot that maybe you can bring your
Wait,
dog.
before you answer, I just want to say,
Oh,
Tracy, and I don't know why we didn't talk about this before. It could be breakfast too, you know. It doesn't have to be
oh,
lunch or dinner. I'm
listen,
just like,
I got my script. I don't know if I can start adding
well,
breakfast in there,
we're
but I'll
changing the
try.
script on air live right now. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, anywhere.
Welcome to NoFo Live. Anyway, go ahead.
um, I mean, a lot of people that come in, like that are like visiting, maybe they're not normally like from around Long Island and they're just coming out for out east for like a day trip or whatever. Most of them rave about Modern Snack Bar, because it's so close to the shelter. And I've been there a few times and it's amazing. I don't think they're
My
pet friendly,
parents,
but
my parents love it. They
Well,
love their crabs and their margaritas or something like that's what they go for. Crabs
well,
and soft shell crab
they
and
have their
margaritas.
regular.
Yeah.
They definitely have their
Yeah.
regular following. I love that old sign
Yeah.
that they have out front. Like the whole
Yeah.
vibe's about it, you know.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got a whole vibe. Okay. While you're working so hard and driving back and forth, do you catch a sunrise or a sunset? Are you an early person or a late?
Yeah, my normal start time is like 5 a.m. So I guess a morning
Woo!
person.
All right.
Wow. So do you
Not
catch a
me.
sunrise on the Long Island Expressway or is that a spot in Riverhead you like?
No, it's really nice because I'm commuting from Ridge. So if I'm going like down Fresh Pond Ave and then I guess down Sound Ave, it's a very scenic
Yeah.
drive.
Yeah.
So I
Especially
usually
that
I
time in the
usually
morning.
try yeah, I try to go that way instead of going like right through Riverhead town, which sucks.
Well,
Yeah.
but at
No,
that
it's
time in
always
the morning, you're fine. I mean, now obviously, or maybe that's when the train parade begins. I don't know, but it's really getting trafficy.
well, but
Um,
also I think what she's saying is that the scenery is
oh,
nicer to drive
okay.
Yeah.
along Sound Avenue than
Well, I'm
along
already starting to
Walmart
think of
and Target. Yeah.
I'm starting to think of summer and the traffic and so
Yeah.
both things, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, brewery, mocktail, cocktail, vineyard, where would we find you enjoying?
I really like cider.
Ooh,
I really like hard cider.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's the Riverhead Cider House, which is pretty
yes.
local, but I also really do love pink Moscato. So I guess I don't know. I like Palmer Vineyards.
Ooh,
I love
okay.
this answer because it's different than what everybody else says. I
Well,
love when we get different and unique
Yeah,
well,
answers.
Palmer
because it's
Vineyards
on
has
that side,
really
because it's
Yeah.
closer to Riverhead side of town, because
No,
yeah.
but
that's
I
where
just
you
mean
end up.
even the cider answer, right? Because we
Yes,
don't hear
yes.
people say that. Which, P.S., I'm just going to take a moment to say, if anyone wants to intern, I really want to do a recap of what everybody's answered to these questions. I think it would be really cool. I just don't have the time to do it. Anyway,
We'll get that.
internship,
We'll get that. We'll get that.
we're taking applications. Anyway, when you're heading home from work, do you ever stop at any farm stands? And if you do, what do you like to get there?
I usually don't. What I usually do after work is either I'll do like a private dog training session or I'll take my personal dog to Veterans Memorial Park and we'll hang out there for like an hour.
What
It's very
kind of dog do
relaxing.
you have?
Um, I'll show you. I have a golden retriever.
Oh,
I
you.
adopted her from, she was a cruelty case from Georgia.
Mm.
Summer.
Hi.
Hi. Oh my gosh.
Oh
So well
my,
behaved.
beautiful.
So well
Yeah, so
Oh my
behaved.
she's
goodness.
usually behind the desk, but she's a good girl.
She just
Oh,
woke up from her nap.
hi.
I'm sorry I woke
What?
you up.
Hey, talk a minute about the dog training.
Yeah, so I felt that like if I was in a management decision and making decisions like about dogs behaviorally, I wanted to have a solid foundation in behavior. So I started like obviously I have my animal science background from Cornell, but I recently got certified as a behavior consultant and as a certified dog trainer. I'm doing another program now, but it's been really, really cool, like delving into the dog psychology aspect and trying to implement programs at the shelter that help with the adoptability of the
Yes,
animal.
yes, I was actually going to say that's always been something that I think holds people back of like what sort of behavioral issues might come with a dog because of their history past, right? So knowing that that's something that you can help with is huge.
Is
Yeah.
that something you offer through the shelter, or is that something people can reach directly to you?
Yeah, so we have Matt out at the Southold shelter, and he comes between here and Riverhead, and
Okay.
then I'm just like primarily based in Riverhead. So
Okay.
if it's a shelter dog, like they could reach out to either location if they're having
Awesome.
issues. And then I also take like private clients as well on the side.
That's great
Awesome.
to
Good to
know.
know. Good to know.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up.
send us your
Yeah.
information so that we can include it in our recap for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely send that.
Well, it's quite obvious what value you're bringing to the North Fork, so we're happy to have you here. But tell us why you like being a part of the North Fork community.
I think it's cool being able, like, I think the coolest thing is when I'm like just driving through, like, visiting anything out on the North Fork, and I see like so many of our adoptable dogs either like being walked
Oh,
or at events or whatever. So it's really cool being able to see the alumni rather than like the dog getting adopted and not really getting that follow up. But it's nice being able to talk to the people and still continue, I guess, to have a relationship even years past adoption.
mm,
So I think
that's
that's
wonderful.
yeah, so I think that's cool.
You're really filling my heart with so much joy because coming from somebody who's had grief from losing a dog, and then meeting individuals like you that are continually taking care of the dogs that are still here. And it so makes me smile that you get to see all your little babies that you've kind of
Hmm.
seen. And then I think
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. You guys are doing collectively, the whole team, such amazing work. And I can't thank you guys enough, and I'm so grateful that you guys brought charcoal into my life.
Yeah,
Aw.
and I really want to bring, we're going to come down and see you. I want to bring Tilly and start volunteering with her because she loved dogs, and I know that she would really enjoy that. So we're
Oh,
going to
you would
sign up to
love the
volunteer.
sleepover. You would love the
Well,
sleepover
but
option
even
for.
I think that Tilly would really love being in the shelter and like visiting the dogs and playing with them there. I think she would love that. So we will see you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. There is no rain in Southold, so enjoy all the activities for this weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye. Thank you,
Happy
Taylor.
Friday.
No
Bye.
Thank
problem.
you.